Welcome to FactPros, where we bring you the strange, mysterious, and unexplained. You've probably heard of Roswell and Area 51, but did you know there are many other alien abductions that are just as bizarre and shocking? Today we're diving into 13 lesser-known alien abduction stories that will leave you questioning what's really out there. Ready to explore the unknown? Let's jump right in. 1. The A70 Abduction, Scotland. Our first story takes us to the A70 highway in Scotland. In August 1992, Gary Wood and Colin Wright were driving home late at night when something strange happened. A dark black mass appeared in the sky above their car. Suddenly, they felt a sharp jolt, as if their car had been lifted. Everything went black for what seemed like an instant. When they regained consciousness, they found themselves 2 hours behind schedule, with no memory of what had occurred. But here's where it gets creepy. Both men began experiencing terrifying flashbacks of being paralyzed on a spaceship, surrounded by strange, gray-skinned creatures. Under hypnosis, they vividly described the beings conducting experiments on them. Was it a case of mass hallucination, or did they really encounter something otherworldly? This chilling incident remains one of Scotland's most well-known alien abduction cases. 2. The Ilkley Moor Encounter, England. In 1987, retired British police officer Philip Spencer was out walking on Ilkley Moor in Yorkshire, a place famous for eerie legends. He was taking photographs of the landscape when something strange appeared in the mist. He claimed to have seen a small, humanoid creature with a large head and long arms. Thinking fast, he snapped a photo, capturing what is now considered one of the most famous alien images ever taken. But that's not all. Spencer reported missing time, and under hypnosis, he described being abducted by the creature he had photographed. His photo has been analyzed countless times, with some experts claiming it shows a genuine alien being. Others believe it's nothing more than an optical illusion. But with Spencer's detailed descriptions of his experience, could there be more to this story than meets the eye? 3. The Allagash Waterway Incident, Maine. Our next story takes us deep into the forests of Maine. In 1976, 4 friends, Jim Weiner, Jack Weiner, Chuck Rack, and Charlie Foltz, were on a canoeing trip in the Allagash Waterway. It was supposed to be a fun outdoor adventure, but what happened next was anything but ordinary. One night, while canoeing under the stars, they saw a bright light hovering over the lake. They signaled the light with a flashlight, and suddenly, the light shot toward them. The next thing they remembered, they were back on shore, with no recollection of how they got there. Hours had passed, but none of them could explain the missing time. Years later, under hypnosis, all 4 men described being taken aboard a UFO and subjected to terrifying medical examinations by strange, gray-skinned beings. The men's stories were eerily similar, even though they had never discussed their experiences with each other before. The Allagash incident remains one of the most well-documented alien abduction cases in the United States. 4. The Pascagoula Abduction, Mississippi. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were just 2 ordinary men out for a relaxing evening of fishing along the Pascagoula River in Mississippi in 1973. But their peaceful night was interrupted when they were suddenly engulfed in a bright light. As they looked up, they saw 3 strange, robotic creatures with claw-like hands descend from a hovering craft. Hickson and Parker claimed they were paralyzed and taken aboard the craft, where the creatures examined them with strange devices. After what felt like hours, they were returned to the riverbank, left in a state of shock. The 2 men reported the incident to the local sheriff, and their story quickly gained media attention. Under hypnosis, both men provided identical details of their encounter, leading many to believe they were telling the truth. Even skeptics have been unable to fully debunk the Pascagoula abduction, making it one of the most compelling UFO cases in history. 5. The Kelly-Hopkinsville Encounter, Kentucky. Imagine a peaceful night on a quiet Kentucky farm, suddenly interrupted by a terrifying encounter with glowing alien creatures. In 1955, the Sutton family and their friend Billy Ray Taylor claimed that they were besieged by small, humanoid creatures with glowing eyes and long arms at their farmhouse in Kelly, Kentucky. The creatures, which the family described as goblins, appeared at their windows, trying to break into the house. For hours, the family fought off the creatures with firearms, but to their horror, the bullets seemed to have no effect. The creatures kept coming back, seemingly invincible. Terrified, the family fled to the local police station. Investigators found bullet holes and strange glowing patches around the property, but no creatures. Skeptics have suggested that the family may have mistaken owls for aliens, but the Suttons insist that what they encountered that night was out of this world. 6. Linda Cortile Abduction, New York. In 1989, Linda Cortile became the center of one of the most famous alien abduction cases in modern history. Linda lived in a high-rise apartment in Manhattan, and on the night of her abduction, she was reportedly taken from her bedroom and floated out of her window by a beam of light into a waiting UFO. But here's where it gets really strange. Multiple witnesses, including 2 United Nations diplomats, claim to have seen the entire event unfold. The diplomats, who were driving near the Brooklyn Bridge at the time, reported seeing Linda being lifted into the air and disappearing into the bright light of the UFO. Linda herself described being taken aboard the craft, where she encountered gray-skinned beings who performed medical procedures on her. The case has been widely discussed and debated, with some believing it to be a hoax, while others claim it's one of the most credible abduction stories ever told. What really happened that night in New York City? The truth remains elusive. 7. The Zanfretta Abductions, Italy. Pier Zanfretta, an Italian night watchman, experienced not one but multiple alien abductions between 1978 and 1981. His first encounter occurred while he was on patrol in a remote area of northern Italy. Zanfretta claimed that a bright light appeared in front of him, and before he knew it, he was taken aboard a UFO by tall, green-skinned beings with glowing yellow eyes. Over the next few years, Zanfretta reported several more abductions, each one more terrifying than the last. He described being subjected to strange medical procedures and shown visions of alien worlds. Investigators found physical evidence at the scenes of his encounters, including large, unidentified footprints and strange burn marks. Despite the skepticism of many, Zanfretta's detailed accounts and the corroborating evidence have made his case one of Italy's most famous UFO stories. 8. The Frederick Valentich Disappearance, Australia. Frederick Valentich was a young Australian pilot with a love for aviation. On October 21, 1978, he was flying a small Cessna over the Bass Strait when something strange happened. During his flight, Valentich radioed Melbourne Air Traffic Control to report that a large, unidentified object was hovering above him. He described the object as having a green light and moving at incredible speeds. As he continued his transmission, his voice suddenly became panicked. He reported that the object was getting closer, and then his radio went silent. Valentich and his plane vanished without a trace. Despite an extensive search, no wreckage was ever found. Some believe Valentich was abducted by a UFO, while others suggest he may have become disoriented and crashed into the sea. But with no concrete evidence, the mystery of his disappearance remains unsolved to this day. 9. The Peter Khoury case, Australia. In 1992, Peter Khoury had a bizarre and terrifying encounter in his Sydney home. He claimed that he was paralyzed in bed and visited by 2 strange humanoid beings, one blonde, Nordic-like, and the other with Asian features. What sets his case apart from others is the physical evidence he discovered afterward. Khoury found a strand of hair on his body that didn't belong to him or anyone else in his home. Determined to get answers, he sent the hair for DNA testing. The results were shocking. The hair's DNA did not match any known human profile. Could this be proof of extraterrestrial life? Khoury's case has fascinated UFO researchers for decades, with many believing it to be one of the most compelling pieces of physical evidence ever found. 10. The Manises UFO Incident, Spain. In 1979, a commercial flight en route to Tenerife was forced to make an emergency landing after the crew spotted a UFO following the plane. The pilot, Francisco Javier Lerdo de Tejada, reported that the object was moving at incredible speeds and seemed to be tailing the aircraft. Despite attempts to evade it, the UFO continued to follow, forcing the plane to land at Manises Airport. Spanish authorities launched an official investigation, and to this day, the incident remains unexplained. Was the UFO a secret military craft, or was it something from another world? 11. The Antônio Vilas Boas Abduction, Brazil. Antônio Vilas Boas was a young Brazilian farmer working late into the night when he encountered a strange craft landing in his field. He described being taken aboard the craft by humanoid beings and subjected to medical procedures. But the most shocking part of his story is what came next. Boas claimed that he was forced to engage in intimate relations with a female alien being. After his release, he experienced strange symptoms, including nausea and headaches, leading him to believe he had been exposed to radiation. His story, which was one of the earliest recorded abduction cases, has been both ridiculed and investigated. But Boas stood by his account until his death. 12. The Betty Andreasson Abduction, Massachusetts. Betty Andreasson's abduction story is one of the most detailed and well-documented in UFO history. In 1967, Betty claimed that she was taken from her home by gentle, gray-skinned beings who communicated with her telepathically. She described being shown visions of beautiful, otherworldly landscapes and undergoing medical examinations. Under hypnosis, Betty provided vivid descriptions of her encounter, which has been studied by numerous investigators. While skeptics remain doubtful, Betty's case is often cited as one of the most compelling alien abduction stories, with many believing that her experience was a genuine encounter with extraterrestrial life. 13. The Travis Walton Abduction, Arizona. Our final case is one of the most famous alien abductions in history. In 1975, Travis Walton, a logger working in the Arizona mountains, vanished for 5 days after encountering a UFO. Walton and his co-workers were driving home when they saw a bright light hovering in the forest. Curious, Walton stepped out of the truck to get a closer look. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the craft, striking Walton and lifting him into the air. His co-workers fled in terror, thinking he was dead. When they returned, Walton was gone. A massive search was launched, but Walton wasn't found until 5 days later, when he reappeared, disoriented and confused, miles from where he had disappeared. Walton claimed that he had been taken aboard the UFO and subjected to medical examinations by strange gray-skinned aliens, but later also encountered taller, human-like beings with blonde hair who seemed to be in charge. His story has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and even the movie Fire in the Sky. While skeptics have questioned Walton's account, his case remains one of the most famous and controversial in UFO history. These 13 stories might not be as famous as Roswell or Area 51, but they are just as fascinating and possibly even more mysterious. What do you think? Are these encounters real, or are they just flights of fancy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more mind-blowing mysteries from FactPros.